Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cohen back here again today with another video, and today I'm going to do another recap of the games throughout the night, focusing on two major topics. Specifically, I want to talk about the Nets. James Harden made his debut for the Nets today. Just kind of want to talk about that and what my thoughts are on what the key to this Nets team being successful is. Additionally, I want to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies, who had a big win over Philly tonight. First, though, I'm going to talk a little bit about each of the games. So I had a couple people in one of my videos, like the Pacers video, really blew up for some reason. So thank you guys for watching that one especially, and thank you for all the support in the channel recently. The videos have been doing better than they have been ever before, so thank you guys for that. But some people watched the Pacers video and were like, "Oh, dude, you clickbaited because you titled the video about the Pacers, but you didn't only talk about the Pacers." All these videos are usually I'll talk about like a couple smaller topics and then a big topic, because otherwise I would have to film 10 different videos to talk about all these different topics I want to talk about rather than just quickly going through them in this video. So I wanted to preface that by saying the topics at the top of the video are the main topics for the video. I might talk about a couple other things here and there because basketball, there's always so much going on, but I'm never going to only talk about that topic, or it's very rare that I might only talk about that. So I just want to get that out there. So drop a like, subscribe, stuff like that. Appreciate you guys watching. First of all, Raptors Hornets played today. Pascal Siakam had a pretty rough game after having a few consecutive good ones, but Norman Powell really stepped up. Hasn't been very good this season, and he finally stepped up for them. On the Hornets side of the ball, Devontae Graham, Terry Rozier had huge games. LaMelo Ball didn't play a lot, which kind of sucks, but I mean, they ended up coming pretty close to a win. So I guess I can't be too mad about it. I just wish LaMelo Ball would get more playing time because he's really fun to watch. But big win for the Raptors, a team that's been struggling. They're now up to 4-8 after starting really poorly. And while 4-8's not great, like there's still room to improve there. They've looked a lot better at least, so that's good for them. Pistons blew out the Heat today, 120-100. Bam Adebayo was fantastic in his big return from protocols and stuff like that. This team really needs Jimmy Butler back, though. He's huge to that team, and without him, they really struggle. Jeremy Grant continued to look like an all-star for the Pistons. I'm very happy for him as a Thunder alum, I guess is what I could say. Shout out to him. Then you've got the Blazers and the Hawks are playing right now. That game is 88-86 while I'm recording this. It's pretty close. Nothing too crazy is going on there, but Trae Young's kind of snapping out of his slump. Damian Lillard's playing well, but CJ McCollum he's been back in the locker room for a while, so hopefully he's okay. Spurs beat the Rockets. Mason Jones, undrafted, balled out today. Shout out to him. Christian Wood played decent. They just weren't enough for the Spurs, led by DeMar DeRozan, who played very well and is kind of building his trade value a little bit. It would be interesting to see if DeMar DeRozan got traded. I've been an advocate for it. Just let the Spurs go full rebuild at this point and see what happens. But then we get to the two games that I really want to talk about, and I'm going to start with the Nets, because I think that's the bigger topic I want to discuss, and then I'll get into the Grizzlies. The Nets played the Magic today, but the bigger storyline is that James Harden made his Nets debut. He looked phenomenal. He's the first player in NBA history to have a 30-point triple-double in his debut for a new team. Kevin Durant was incredible. He had over 40 points. He looked unstoppable on the offensive end, like he is one of the greatest scorers, if not the greatest scorer of all time. So it's expected, but it doesn't mean he doesn't make it look so effortless. It looks so easy for Kevin Durant at times. One of the best players in the world. And they just had this Magic team outmatched. Though credit to the Magic. The Magic played really well. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries. Markelle Fultz is out for the season. Jonathan Isaac's out for the season. Evan Fournier didn't play today. Vucevic has become one of the more underrated guys in the league. He's so good. And he made the Nets pay a lot today, especially from around the three-point line. It felt like he hit a bunch of threes. I'm not sure how many he actually hit, but it felt like he hit a ton. So shout out to Vucevic. But my big takeaway from this game, like I was just talking about before, Harden and Durant, they work. Like, I get it's against the Magic, who were very beat up. I get they only won by 7, but they're building chemistry, and they were without Kyrie Irving, their big third piece. So what this game tells me is that Harden and KD, they work. Those two guys, if it was just them, it would work out perfectly fine. They'd be one of the best teams in the NBA. Eventually, as they built that chemistry up, maybe they could try and bring in some depth in like the buyout market or using a mid-level exception, something like that. Or maybe go into something at the trade deadline. I don't know. But I think this Nets team, Harden and Durant, they work very well. They played great together. Durant works well off ball. Harden was moving a lot off ball today, which was cool to see for him. A lot of people, it's kind of the same thing with Chris Paul. When I was advocating for Chris Paul to get traded to the Sixers, people kept telling me that Chris Paul can't play off ball, like he didn't spend a large portion of his career playing with James Harden, who is a very ball dominant player and someone who Chris Paul thrived with. They came within one game of beating the Kevin Durant Warriors, which a lot of people didn't think was possible, me included. They were possibly a Chris Paul hamstring injury away from that. And if that doesn't show that the two of them could work together, I don't know what did. But the great players can learn to play off ball. The greatest players in the history of basketball can learn to mold and adapt and be different things for their team. That's why LeBron James is one of the all-time greats, for example, because he could be your playmaker, he could be your scorer, he can do whatever you need him to do, and he's like a Swiss Army knife. He can just do whatever. Same thing with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, or even Steph Curry, both of them. When they went to the Warriors, they had to learn how to coexist, and they did it seamlessly because they're amazing players. That's what happened with Durant and Harden. These guys are going to learn how to play together because they're super talented and they wanted to play together and they can build that chemistry. It doesn't always work. Harden and Westbrook was always kind of a weird fit. Their play styles didn't match super well, and Russ dealt with a lot of injuries, unfortunately, which ultimately derailed the experiment before we could ever see it live up to like its true potential. So that one didn't work super well. It happens sometimes where it doesn't work, but when you have such dominant offensive forces at this point in their career like Harden and Durant, it works. That's where Kyrie comes in. It's going to depend if Kyrie can make it work, if how successful this team's going to be. If Kyrie can fit in as seamlessly as Harden and Durant fit in together today, this team's going to win the championship. They're going to let Anthony Davis drop 40 a game on them in the finals, and they're going to win in like 6 or 7. It's going to be tough. Like I said, AD is going to beat him up. All bigs are going to beat him up, but it's going to happen. DeAndre Jordan isn't very good at this point in his career, and they're going to get beat up by bench lineups. But when you have that much talent, especially with the fact that you're going to be able to put KD, Kyrie, and Harden, you can have at least one of them, if not two of them, if not all three of them on the court at one time. That's a huge and underrated aspect of this team. You don't ever have to have that full bench lineup in that some teams do because you have 3 superstars that you can put in there, or 2 superstars. Kyrie is kind of like on that verge, depending on what you classify as a superstar. It's a very weird term in NBA terms. But the issue is if Kyrie is going to fit seamlessly. Now, I believe Kyrie is a talented enough player to do so. I think Kyrie can fit in seamlessly, but he is more of a ball-dominant guy, or he's less of a adapter than the other two. I feel like Harden and KD have been in a ton of situations where they've had to adapt. KD played with Westbrook and then going to Curry. It's very different. While they're both amazing players, it's a very different type of system and scheme. The Warriors focused on different things than the Thunder did. They excelled. The Nets focused on different things. He's excelled in the Nets so far. It's cool. Kyrie played on the Cavs with LeBron James, and LeBron makes things really easy, so Kyrie did have one of the greatest players of all time to help him out. Given Kyrie definitely pulled his weight. Kyrie was integral to this championship, the runs to the finals and then the 2016 championship. He went to the Celtics where things really did not work out very well. It seemed like he didn't fit in very well with that team. They had that finals run Eastern Conference finals run where they came within one game to the finals with Kyrie Irving hurt. And he just didn't seem to fit as well in Boston as he did on the Cavaliers or the Nets last season. It seemed like he fit in pretty well in the Nets. But now he's playing with Kevin Durant and James Harden, which is tough. It's going to be hard for him to learn how to fit in. And I think that ultimately this team's potential, what I learned today, is not up to Harden. It's not up to Kevin Durant. It's going to be up to Kyrie Irving. If Kyrie is as seamless of a fit as Harden and KD look like they're going to be together today, this Nets team will win the championship. If he's not, this team's going to have a lot of growing pains, and while they still could win the championship, it might not be this season. They might have to wait for Dinwiddie to get back, or it might not be at all. And that's going to be really interesting to see because Kyrie's been gone for a little bit. There's been reports that he's unhappy with Steve Nash being the coach. I don't know how much I necessarily buy that. The media spins a lot of weird narratives about Kyrie Irving. that he really, frankly does not deserve, or a lot of them just feel like they're BS. So I'm not going to judge anything, and I guess we'll see what happens. But they looked great tonight. On the other side of things, I talked about that for longer than I expected to. So this won't be as long as I was going to talk about them for. But the Grizzlies and Sixers playing today. Sixers fans have started a war on Ben Simmons. Uh, I'm sorry for Ben Simmons. His Twitter mention is probably like terrible right now. I hope he doesn't check Twitter that much. I know he's not very active, but I hope he doesn't ever check it either because I'm sure his mentions are terrible. Sixers fans are calling for trades. They're calling for his head. They're adding Daryl Morey and all these tweets asking for him to trade Ben Simmons. They're mad they didn't trade for Harden. All that stuff. And I get it being frustrated with Ben Simmons, a player who is very unconventional, but Simmons is still a really good basketball player, and he's just going through a rough stretch. He's going to be fine. So don't beat him up too much. If he continues to not play well for like a really long stretch of time, and the Sixers start playing bad, like they're playing well too. They caught this loss today, but they're also without Joel Embiid. So people are being really hard on Ben Simmons. But what I want more focus on is the Memphis Grizzlies. John Morant made his return today. He looked good. Definitely not the John Morant that we saw before his injury, but obviously that was to be expected because he's coming off an ankle injury. He's a player that used a lot of explosiveness, kind of like a John Wall or a Russell Westbrook or a De'Aaron Fox, just guys who are pretty explosive. So when you come off an injury like that, where you have an injury on that lower body, especially with an ankle, it's going to take a lot of time to kind of like build back up to that. If it were me, I would be kind of afraid. John Morant didn't seem very afraid today when he went up for a dunk. He did his usual one leg landing. That freaks me out because I'm so afraid he's going to get hurt again. But he had a good game. He had 17 points, 6 assists. Pretty good game for him. Sixers, like I said, didn't have Embiid. They struggled tonight. But what I really want to talk about is how this Grizzlies front office has gotten a lot of, or the Grizzlies in general have gotten a lot of flack for doing a bad job of drafting and like cultivating and bringing in talent and stuff like that. But I want to give them credit for how they've really turned around that narrative, at least in my eyes, in the past season, 2 seasons, but especially right now. John Morant looks like he's going to be a future superstar. That number 2 pick was honestly a no-brainer. So I don't want to like applaud them for making the John Morant pick, but the fact that they went with him, they're like, okay, here are the keys. You be our franchise. That was a good decision by them. So they do deserve credit for that. Kyle Anderson has been great for them. I know they haven't necessarily cultivated him, but bringing him in and they've really allowed him to find a home here. I think he's excelled. Brandon Clark was a steal of a pick where they got him. Dylan Brooks is very like controversial because he shoots a lot and he can sometimes take away shots from John Morant, but I do think he's a decent player, and I think that the Grizzlies front office deserves credit for having him and trying to cultivate him into a good scorer next to John Morant, especially with Jaren Jackson's injury, who is another good pick by the Grizzlies at number 4 there. They went with the pick. They didn't mess it up. That's honestly something that a lot of NBA general managers just do. It's they don't make the easy decisions, and this Grizzlies team has made those easy decisions recently. They've drafted well. They've made good trades. Like trading Marc Gasol for Jonas Valanciunas was a huge trade for them. Obviously, it worked out really well too for the Toronto Raptors because they got Marc Gasol, who led them, or not led them, but was a huge part to them winning the championship. But getting Jonas Valanciunas, a great big man for John Morant. He can space the floor. He can throw down dunks. He's a decent passer. He just does all like the little things, and he's a pretty good player in general, especially next to, like I said, John Morant, and next to Jaren Jackson Jr., who's also a stretch big. It really allows that lineup to space the floor for Ja to drive, for him to kick, just do what John Morant's going to do. Guys like Xavier Tillman, who have been really good for them. Someone who a lot of people aren't talking about right now, but he's looked amazing so far to start the season. He's looked like a steal. Grayson Allen, who I wasn't even sure was going to be a great NBA player, has been a productive role player for them at times. Desmond Bane was a steal. I think a lot of people knew he was going to be a steal, but they made the right pick there. So D'Anthony Melton too, Tyus Jones, like these are all solid players, and I think the Grizzlies deserve credit for how they've kind of turned things around. I wish Justice Winslow would stay healthy too, because I really was high on him earlier in his career. He just can't stay healthy. It sucks. But I wanted to give the Grizzlies a shout out because I thought they were going to absolutely sink without John Morant, and now when he's coming back, they're at 500. So They've done a good job, and these players that they've drafted, they've cultivated, they've brought in, they've given good roles, have been huge to that team staying afloat while Ja was injured, and Ja's back now. And let's see if this team can make that playoff run that a lot of people thought they were going to end up finishing off last season. They just barely fell short in the play-in games to the Portland Trailblazers, who were just on fire. They had Damian Lillard, who's a superstar, so you can't really do much there. But with that being said, this video went way longer than I thought it was going to. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was going so long, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you like a longer video like this, or if you like the shorter, usually around like 10, 11-minute videos. With that being said, I will see you guys later. Real one, say it back.